All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. We all learned a new term today. If you've been watching Nancy Pelosi about the budget deal, embrace the suck. If you don't like it, you think it sucks, embrace the suck. There you go. And joining us now is, once again, coming back for a return visit, I'm happy to say, is the senior legal judicial analyst for Fox News, and that is Judge Andrew Napolitano. Hello, Judge.
Stevie, how are you, my
Good.
dear friend?
Great to talk to you. Always great to talk to you.
Likewise. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Thanks for coming. So Kathleen Sebelius yesterday on the hot seat again, and you know what one congressman says talking to you is like talking to North Korea, and just bizarre things come out of her mouth. But you know we have at least one state, and I'm sure more will watch this and copy it if it works. If it's legal, and that's where you come in. South Carolina is on the verge of passing a bill that would do away with Obamacare in that state. Now, is it that easy? Could that be done?
Well, it's not quite that easy, but what South Carolina is attempting to do can be done. But let me try and explain it. The government of South Carolina cannot prohibit the people who live in South Carolina from signing up for Obamacare. But it can prohibit the employees of the government of South Carolina from cooperating with, establishing, or enforcing Obamacare, from using the instruments of state government to further Obamacare. So yes, they can certainly do that. In fact, if enough states did that, that would seriously gut the president's ability to enforce Obamacare in the states. Remember, originally, the original Obamacare had a portion struck down by the Supreme Court. That good news, for those of us who believe that this is socialized medicine, that good news was sort of drowned out by the crazy cockamamie balance of the decision, which upheld Obamacare on the theory that it's a tax.
Right.
But what it did strike down was the following. The original legislation said the Congress ordered the states to establish exchanges and ordered the states to pay for those exchanges. And the Supreme Court said, well, you can't do that. If you want exchanges in the states, you, Congress, have to pay for them. So Congress basically said to the states, okay, you help us set this stuff up and we'll pay for it. If the states refuse to help the federal government set it up, the federal government simply does not, believe it or not, have the resources to set it up. So that will seriously impair the ability of Obamacare to become the opiate of the masses that the president hopes that it will become if enough states say no. So Carolina will strike a blow for state sovereignty, and if enough states follow suit, it will seriously impair the ability of the statute to be as effective as the president wants it to be.
Well, I got to tell you, that's exciting. But let me ask you this: then what can the federal government do? Can Obama? Could they take these states to court? Could they file some kind of injunction in court pending a suit? I mean,
no. There's nothing the federal government can do because the Supreme Court has already ruled on this.
Yeah.
Now, there'll be some political resistance to this, just as there is political resistance whenever the federal government wants to give away something that appears to be for free. So the Democrats, of course, will resist this, saying, you're going to prevent lower middle-class people from having health care if you do this. But in reality, it will prevent the government from destroying health care as we know it if enough states say to the federal government, don't come here.
Well, that's amazing stuff. We're going to have to follow this and see. And
I think it's going to pass, Steve.
Wow.
And I think the governor will sign it, and South Carolina will present a test case.
Yeah.
Will the feds come into South Carolina and set up their own exchange at their own expense? They could probably afford to do it in South Carolina. But if other states, like our home state of New Jersey, were to do that, if Christie had the fortitude to say to them, you don't come here,
right?
I don't think the feds could afford it.
By the way, you mentioned Chris Christie, so before we get to I know you got to go in a minute or two, but there's this whole draft Andrew Napolitano for president thing going on. Are you aware? I know you're aware of that. I am
aware of it. They are very nice people, though I have never met them, and obviously I'm not doing anything with them. They say they have about 100,000
signatures,
but I'm pretty happy with my day job.
Okay, I hear you. All right, let's touch on this real quick, Judge, and that is it turns out, according to a piece in the Washington Post, that the agencies have collected data on American cell phone use in thousands of what they call tower dumps.
This is really reprehensible, and I wrote about this in my column in today's Washington Times and also at foxnews.com and then about 50 other venues. The local police are actually jealous of the NSA's lawlessness, and so they decided to go to local cell phone operators that own towers everywhere. Again, take New Jersey; they're all over the place. And said, can you just give us all the information that's been collected by a given cell phone on the tower, and they identify the tower. Now, that would mean a digital recording of all calls that pass through the tower. And some telecoms have said yes, and some have said no. And when the telecoms say no, then they go to judges, and some judges say yes, and some say no. And when enough judges say no, they went out and bought their own device. Costs about $400,000. It's the size of a suitcase. It mimics a cell phone tower. So if you drive in your car or walk with your cell phone on in the range of this device, the cell phone call is drawn to the device and recorded by it and stored. Do you know what that's called?
That's spying.
Hacking.
Yeah.
That's
hacking.
called hacking.
Yeah.
That's a federal crime, and the local police are doing it in about 5 or 6 major cities. And guess who's paying for the $400,000 piece of equipment? Guess where they're getting the money from?
The taxpayer.
Federal stimulus funds.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Which are supposed to stimulate the economy, not the government.
Not that. You know, Judge, we have to just assume that everything we do on the internet, everything we say on our cell phone, and if you're not careful, everything you're doing in your living room, if you got a camera on your TV or if you're on your laptop or whatever, that you have no privacy anymore.
Yes, we do have to assume that unless and until enough members of Congress gut the budget of the NSA and enough local governments stop their police from acting like Gestapo.
Crazy. Hey, I know you got to go. Thank you, sir. Great to talk to you. Have a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, sir.
Always a pleasure. Same to you.
Take care, Judge. That's Judge Andrew Napolitano, Senior Judicial Analyst for the Fox News Channel and syndicated columnist as well, as you heard him allude to, and best-selling author. But very interesting. Look, I'm all for the police. I am a former New York City NYPD a PBA Man of the Year, baby. That's right. I think that's going back to 2004 or 2005. Nonetheless, and I'm all for going after terrorists, but there's no excuse for this stuff. There's no excuse for the government to be listening to or tracking my phone calls or your phone calls. It's just out of hand. First, we were told it was just if they had reason to suspect or whatever. And didn't Obama? Well, this should have been the dead giveaway. How many times did Obama say, no one's listening on your calls? Yeah, okay. So now, once we heard that, we knew it was you could keep your doctor, you could keep your insurance. No one's listening on your calls. We're getting a theme here. So it's very frightening. It really is. Not that you have anything to hide, but you have things to hide. Your own personal existence. You don't do things standing in front of an open window. You don't say things on the telephone by shouting them out that open window. Well, guess what? Now you have to work under the assumption that your phone calls are being tapped, and you don't even realize this. If you have a web-friendly TV in your home, and it's got a camera thing on it like your laptop, or if you have a laptop, or if you have a desktop, and you got a camera, you have to assume, I would cover it, because otherwise you have to assume that somebody is watching you and listening to you. Are you ready for that? I mean, you don't know that. You don't think that's what's happening to you. I'm telling you, we're living in a very, very scary time. Okay, but again, I'm all for getting terrorists. I'm all for sticking their head under the water if they know where the next bomb's going off. This government's not, but they're okay with bugging our phone calls. You figure it out. All right, folks, Steve Malzberg Show. When we come back, a nativity scene removed from an Air Force base, Newsmax TV and radio.